Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, he said to them, my house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. Guys, this verse is being talked about over and over and over again. And we're going to tie it in because there is the protest, there's Don Lemon, and there's Nicki Minaj. And we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of sports and health. All this and more on Another Mother, episode 52. Create sin.
Create dopamine.
I create sin.
Create dopamine.
Create sin.
Create dopamine.
I create sin.
I create dopamine.
We another mother, Poddio, hey.
Another mother, Poddio, hey.
We another mother, Poddio, hey.
Another mother, Poddio, here we
Here
go.
we go. To the Mother Freaking Show, here we go. Here we go. Guess what, y'all? It's Friday. Hey, come on, y'all. Do the Friday dance. Woo! Hey, hey, do the Friday dance. Ow! Come on. Hey, do the Friday dance, y'all. Oh, come on. Boom, 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 boom. Get your coffee, get your tea, get your life. My name is Lisa Renee, and this is my co-host.
Wild, the big black man. What up?
And he's from the 916 Sac Town.
Oh, no.
And we another mother, Poddio.
Hey.
Hey! Come on, let's get into and Weezey Sports.
So, it was a huge weekend of football last weekend and another huge weekend of football coming up this coming weekend. So, let's start with the NFL. All the games pretty much, I think with the exception of one, which was the Niners, who got blasted by the Seahawks, pause. But, to the Niners' defense, they didn't have a lot of defensive pieces and all this. This is from Niners fans, but we cannot make an excuse. Hey, you guys won last weekend against all odds in Philadelphia. You came here against a division opponent in the Seattle Seahawks. You were fighting to get the number one seed the last game against the Seahawks in the regular season, so we can't use that as an excuse. They just whooped y'all tail. That's what that was. I mean, it started off, the very opening kickoff, they ran it back, and they just never looked back. It never really looked. There was a couple chances where the Niners had some action, but they never really capitalized on it, so they got waxed. The other game that took place on waxed. The other game that took place was the Broncos and the Bills. So now this was one of the more heart-wrenching games of the weekend from the standpoint it went to overtime. The Denver came out. They did not score on their opening possession. I personally thought when they kicked it to the Bills, it was a wrap, because you got Josh Allen, All-American hero, and all that kinds of stuff, and it did not work out that way. The Broncos actually ended up winning. Bad news for the Broncos. Bo Nix broke his ankle, so he won't be available for the AFC Championship game this weekend against the Patriots. And as we know, the Patriots are no joke. Speaking of the Patriots, They beat the Texans. I was kind of pulling for the Texans. C.J. Stroud's from Rancho, so, he's a California dude. I like DeMeco Ryans. I like that defense. That Houston defense is a monster. And so I just like their attitude. And C.J. Stroud, I like him. He's a California kid and all that, but the turnovers, he had 3 against Pittsburgh. He had 4 against the Patriots. The Patriots are too good to give them that many chances, and the defense still kept them in the game. Now, Drake May himself had 3 fumbles, 1 for a loss, and was responsible for some turnovers as well. So it's not like he played the perfect game either, but C.J. Stroud, you cannot do that. So now it's going to be very interesting to see what the Texans do going forward. Do they feel like CJ Stroud's their guy? Do they, look somewhere else? I don't know. I can't say either way. I like CJ Stroud. I think he is a good quarterback. I do not feel like since that rookie season he has performed to that level yet. So they got to kind of figure that out. Whether it's the offensive coordinator, they got to kind of figure it out because they have too good of a team. These are some prime years right now. The time is now. Patrick Mahomes wasn't in it. Lamar Jackson wasn't in it, and Jalen Hurts got eliminated. And then Josh Allen wasn't in it either because he got eliminated the day prior. So this was a perfect opportunity to kind of make some noise. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it. And then the last game, which another heart wrencher, was the Rams and the Bears. Everybody, the Bears, the comeback Bears. Caleb Williams throws I don't even know what to call it. Kind of a Hail Mary, kind of not. A lot of people are comparing it to the fourth down play against Green Bay. I personally think that the fourth round play against Green Bay was a more skilled. I was more impressed with that one because he was on the move. He fitted over and under the defense. He had to fit it in the pocket on the fourth down in a very crucial down. I personally was more impressed with that. The throw he made was fourth down. He was scrambling backwards. He had to make that. And hey, listen, I can't remember the tight end's name. He beat Durant. Durant, he just outpositioned him like in basketball. Went to overtime. Rams, same thing. Rams didn't score on their drive. Here come the comeback Bears. I'm thinking the Bears got it. They're driving, and Caleb Williams throws a pick. And then the Rams get down in field goal position, win the game. And so there we have it. Those are the four. So now we have the Broncos New England going to the Broncos. No Bo Nix, so we'll see what happens with Stidham, see if he's able to step in and get the job done. That's the early game on Sunday. And then we have the Rams going to the Seahawks, division opponents. That's going to be the later game on Sunday. I know down here everything's going to be on fire. I know a lot of people are really looking forward to that matchup. And then the national championship on Monday, another heart wrencher. Football got it right this weekend. Miami playing at home for the national championship against highly favored Indiana. A lot of people thought Indiana was going to run away with it. Miami's defense is kind of like Houston's defense. They some dogs back there. They were able to hold Indiana to a field goal. Miami's driving. They're driving. And Caleb throws an interception to end the game. So there we have it. We kept it off football because that's what's going on. There's obviously basketball news and whatnot, but we'll get to that next week.
Yes, guys. Thank you for Aunt Weezey Sports. Guys, let's talk about health now. It's the new year. I know many people have done the Daniel fast. My last day of the Daniel fast was yesterday, 21 days with no wine and no meat. I know a lot of people started adding a bunch of stuff like no dairy, no bread, no nothing. Listen, honey, the Bible say no wine and no meat. Oh yeah, and that's it. Yeah, you're not about to take no bread for me, okay? Y'all doing too much, okay? Follow the Bible for what it says. Right. It says no chosen food. That means no wine, no meat. They gave you an example, but then y'all want to always say adding all this stuff. But really, when it comes to fasting, you could do a partial fast, right? The Bible said that. I stayed in prayer, like a lot of people stayed in prayer, not just for my goals, but also for everyone who was actually on the Daniel fast. So congratulations to everyone who did the Daniel fast. If you had some breakthroughs, tell me about those breakthroughs. Word. And wow, no, we had a breakthrough. I'm going to be sharing that. I'm going to post that tomorrow, so I don't want to actually give that away. But you guys will know. Probably by the time you see the show, you're going to already know what that breakthrough was that I had in the 21 days. And even little things, even though you guys are going to see one of the breakthroughs, there were other little things too as well that I saw, like God is really working when you take that time to be with him. But from a health standpoint, guys, I just want to remind you of these things because it's so important. The first thing I want to talk to you about is just staying hydrated. And Wow got his, I got mine. Your body will thank you, guys. Our cells, everything, your tummy, going to the restroom, I know that's TMI, all of those things, your skin. your skin. Me and Anthony up here looking like little glow bunnies right now because we drank so much water. You know? So the number one thing I want to tell you is to stay hydrated. The second thing I want to tell you is to add stretch breaks throughout your day. Come on, do it with a stretch, right? You need to really stretch your muscles, guys.
Good one.
Ugh, they will get stiff on you. So stretch your muscles a little stretch. My aunt used to stretch well, she still does. She is 101 right now. She has been stretching every time she wakes up in the morning. And I do believe that that is paying towards her having longevity. So make sure you do stretch breaks throughout the day. Maybe you start with the arms, then your legs, or just do it in the morning. Your body, again, will thank you. Then also, guys, increase your step count. Every little bit counts. I see people on the plane. I lie to you not. They stand up and they just start getting their steps in, right? Park a little bit further. You guys have heard that if you're going shopping, park a little bit further out so you can just get some extra steps, right? If you're on the phone with people, just walk around your house or your apartment, because all of that cardio really helps. A lot of times we are sedentary in these days and times. We're either on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, so we're not getting the exercise like we usually get. So if you could just take more steps, it will really, really help. And I think the most important one that I'm going to tell you guys out of all of these, take a few mindful minutes to pause and breathe, right? So a lot of times on my skits, right, y'all might see me go, breathing or whatever. And that's kind of like that mindful moment when something triggers you that you have to take a step back and just kind of take 4 deep breaths, they normally say, just to kind of just settle yourself, especially when, maybe challenges are happening in your day. If you take those mindful moments, those pauses and those breaks, it really helps you to reset, because it's too early in the year, guys, to be letting yourself get too tense or stressed or just walking in any type of darkness, negative energy. Like, we're too early in the year. Like I told y'all last time, can we wait till like May or June? Like, do we got to get into the negativity this early in the year? So take one of these 4 things that I've given you, and I'm telling you, staying hydrated, adding stretch breaks, increasing your step count, and taking a few mindful minutes to pause and breathe will make a difference in your day. All right, Aunt Weezey, y'all ready to get into the real stuff? Woo! Well, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and just play a little bit of this. This is from TMZ, and this is basically just to kind of give you a little context of what I'm going to play. So a lot of protesters, and Aunt Wow, correct me on this, some protesters went to this church because one of the pastors of the church actually is connected to ICE. Correct, Aunt Wow?
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly, correct. Don Lemon, let me be very clear because a lot of people are getting this wrong. Don Lemon went out there as a journalist, right? We've seen Don Lemon on CNN. He's no longer on CNN. He now has his own show, The Don Lemon Show. And so Don, I was really impressed that he went out there and said, hey, let me go back in the day like I used to do it before the CNN and all of that. And he went out to do journalistic approach. He was taking a chronicle approach, getting the news, talking to people, getting the information so that he can bring it out and back to you and I. He was not there for the protesters. He just followed the protesters over there to do journalistic work. And that's what journalists do. So we're going to get into the clip of him talking to one of the pastors while the people were protesting. So let's check that out. And then we'll get into what Nicki said, and then we'll get into how Don responded, and then we'll get into our commentary, guys. So here we go. Let me go ahead and share my... Wow, let me know when you can see that on your screen.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect, guys. Let me just make it a little bit bigger for you. All right, guys, let's check this out. Just a little bit of this because we ain't trying to get in trouble at all. Okay? At all. Not even kinda. We not trying to. Let me just move this out of the way. Sorry, guys. All right, here we go.
A member of ICE and he's a pastor of the church. Our church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left.
So this is what the First Amendment is about the freedom to protest.
There's varying
Sorry, guys. A little bit.
views in this church on politics and immigration. Recognize the complexity of the issue.
This shows you just how divided America is. When you look at the protesters here, and then you look at the people in Arab Ukraine, and you know what's the interesting thing? If these two groups could just get together, they might figure out what to do.
So there you see it. Don was, as they say, reporting from the front lines, telling you everything that was happening.
All right, so we're
And the
going
keyword is
to give me a
reporting. Yeah,
second.
he was reporting, but the federal government.
All right, so I'm going to stop that, guys, and I am going to see if I can bring up what Nicki Minaj said. Just 1 second. All right, guys. So Nicki, and I believe she tweeted this on X, correct, Aunt Wow? I think it was on X.
I believe so.
Yeah, but basically she called Don Lemon the H word. She basically said he is a COCK, right? Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then she put up like a Chucky doll actually in her post. And
I didn't know
yeah,
what that was supposed to mean.
yeah, okay, so here it is, guys. I got it. Let me read exactly what it was. It says, Don COCK sucking lemon is disgusting. How dare you? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any of religion. Lock him up. She also included, like I said, a photo of Chucky in her post. So again, I'm going to read it again. Don CLCK sucking lemon is disgusting. How dare you? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up. And again, she included a Chucky doll with that. Now, she really sounds like somebody else when she talks like that, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. So let's go back. I want to show you guys Don Lemon's response actually to what she actually said. So just 1 second. Let me bring that up.
But the federal government now seems to think he is part of an insurrection.
that he crossed the line. So joining us right now, the man in the middle of it, Don Lemon. Don, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you, Charles and Harvey. I wish it was under different circumstances, but you know.
I don't know. I think this is an important circumstance to talk about, so I'm actually embracing it. So Harmeet Dillon, the Deputy Attorney General for Civil Rights, was on the Benny Johnson show and talked about you and what you did at the church. Want to play it? Want to get your reaction?
Some of these folks who did this have self-identified. Don Lemon himself has come out and said he knew exactly what was going to happen inside that facility. He went into the facility, and then he began, quote-unquote, committing journalism. And as if that's sort of a shield from being an embedded part of a criminal conspiracy. It isn't. Come next Sunday, nobody should think in the United States that they're going to be able to get away with this. Everyone in the protest community needs to know that the fullest force of the federal government is going to come down and prevent this from happening.
All right, guys, so let's get to Don's response.
If you think that they're going to somehow make activists and protesters in Minneapolis afraid, then I think they've got another thing coming. I think these people are really pissed off at what's happening in the country, and I think that this is, right now, we're at an inflection point, and I think this is going to motivate people to protest even more. They should be trying to listen to the protesters, which is one of the questions I asked the pastor. Now, as far as it relates to me, I had, it doesn't matter if I had an idea or didn't have an idea of what was going on in church. I'm a journalist. I was there to report and to show and to chronicle what's going on and to memorialize it, and that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what we do in every situation and over historic moments since America's inception. That's what journalists do. It's the First Amendment. We're protected in the First Amendment. So I have no idea what they're talking about. And I don't believe this woman has any idea what she's talking about as well.
Well, it sounds like, Don, they're tying you to saying that you weren't just a journalist. It almost sounds like they're accusing you, or they think that you might have been involved in the planning of this, that you were somehow part of the protest. I didn't see that at all.
Guys, let me get to what he said about Nicki Minaj. I want to get to that part, and because we don't want to mess around with TMZ trying to copyright us. How about that?
The federal government now seems to think he is part of an insurrection.
That he crossed the line. So joining us right now, the man in the middle of it, Don Lemon. Don, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you, Charles and Harvey. I wish it was under different circumstances, but you know.
I don't know. I think this is an important circumstance to talk about, so I'm actually embracing it. So Harmeet Dillon, the Deputy Attorney.
Oh, sorry. I must have thought it was before that. So let's see here.
And what if I hadn't been there chronicling it? Nobody would have known about it. But also, I wasn't the only journalist there, so I'm not quite sure how I became on. because this is what the civil rights movement was about. Don, they said, what if no one had chronicled the civil rights movement? This is akin to people going into to diners and department stores with lunch counters and sitting in. This was an act of civil disobedience. But they said none of that has anything to do with you. You're a journalist, and we look to our journalists. There's a special place carved out in the Constitution for journalists. We look to our journalists to be able to record this stuff so that people have an idea of what is happening in the now and also in history. So, I think this is just gonna this is gonna backfire on them. They're gonna mobilize more people to fight against these strong arm.
Now, this lady right here, guys, I'm not sure of her name, but she was very vocal about going to this church and protesting, for this service. I'm not sure of her name. Maybe we will get that. But yeah, she was very vocal if you guys have watched it.
But, I'm going to do it this time. I think Nicki Minaj has made it very clear how she feels about African Americans in this country. Or I don't think she's one of them, obviously. And she should, under Trump's rule, she should be deported because I don't think, reportedly, that she is a legal citizen here. She is undocumented. And so she has shown her disdain for African Americans. So why are you supporting her? Why are you buying her records? She's also supporting, I have lots of gay friends who love Nicki Minaj. Why are you supporting this homophobic, bigoted, ignorant woman? You should not be supporting her. Nicki Minaj, this is clearly out of her depth. She doesn't understand politics. She doesn't understand journalism. And I'm not surprised that she is weighing in on something that is beyond her capacity. What I will say to her, because she put a doll, I think she put the Chucky doll in there. A better symbol that should have been represented in that picture is a pick-me doll, because Nicki Minaj is a pick-me. She will do anything that is expedient for her politically. And again, she's ignorant. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's always weighing in on things that she doesn't know about. Nicki Minaj should just sit down. And by the way, isn't she married to an alleged pedophile? And she has the nerve to say something disparaging about saying something homophobic. I'm pretty sure that maybe that's part of the reason that she is cozying up to the Trump administration for some sort of leniency for her family members. And it's just very transparent. So Nicki Minaj, F off, stop being a homophobic bigot, and get a life and some brains.
Okay, we will leave it there. All right.
Okay, so I will start this off, and I'll let Aunt Wow, because y'all know he gets a little bit passionate about this. So let me start off first with the African American lady that I showed you guys, who was very vocal about this protest. But I just kind of wanted you guys to more hear how Don Lemon responded to Nicki, and then also some of his questioning to one of the pastors there. Now, that's not the pastor who you guys saw in that clip that is, connected to the ICE, DOJ, or whatever. He's not the one connected. He was just the one interviewing with Don Lemon, and probably because he knows who Don Lemon is, so he knows he's reputable, and probably said, let me go ahead and talk to him about that. I'm going to say this. It's probably not going to be the positive opinion, but listen, we bring authenticity to you. The beauty of all of us in this world is that we should respect everybody's differences and opinions. And if anything, we should educate each other when we see maybe that someone has a different opinion. Because when Don Lemon talks about someone being ignorant, that's not a negative term. That means maybe they're just not aware of all the knowledge that goes behind something when someone says someone is ignorant. I think you have a right to protest. Hands down. But I do not think you should do it in a church service. There are just some things when it comes to God, I think you should be like hands off. But when that church service is over and people coming out, maybe we're out in front of the church. But to interrupt a worship service, I don't know, to me, if that was the right call. Right? I understand of getting points across. I understand what people saying, Jesus had to turn the tables and all those types of things. I get it. But there are innocent people in there that are praying for whatever reason, and they came to a worship service, and they should not have to be the stray bullet for all the ignorant things that are coming around. So I think interrupting the worship service, I don't agree with that. Do I feel you should protest? I think you should. But when you protest, I think you also need to have dignity too as well. And I don't think the judgment in this was absolutely right. Because this topic is so passionate, Aunt Wow and I are going to ping pong. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Aunt Wow on that note.
In that particular front, I do like the voice. I do like the intent. I probably would have leaned against actually going in the church.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Probably. Simply because of everything that you stated. So that's number one. As far as the God front, neither one of us play with God like that. All those kinds of things. You got people in there who don't know what's going on. You have all that kind of stuff. Aesthetically, what that does also is now I'm in this stage where I want to do everything possible not to give them any kind of fuel. And so now what this does is give them fuel to hide behind stuff that actually doesn't matter, right? All that does is really give them ammunition. Strategically, I didn't think it was the best move. Not only, obviously, everything Lisa Renee talks about, which I agree with. I personally would now, we would be right out front that church, right? It's kind of, forgive me, I'm going to get really, really street for a second, but from the real G's and the real OGs, when you was beefing, it was kind of like that same thing. You don't go to nobody mama house. Now, I've been waiting for you to leave. Once you get up out that driveway or whatever, I'm tapping that tail. But I ain't gonna bring nothing to your mama house out of codes, ethics, and respects, right?
Yeah.
So, all the OGs is like that. Where it got messed up is where the newer generation kind of skipped all that. The OGs was really on that. You at your mama house, you safe. Once you leave that, I'm thumping that. I'm all in that. Pause. So I kind of carry that same code of ethics in this particular situation. Strategically, if I were organizing the protest, if I were part of the protest, if I had any say in that, I would have opted not to. We can be out front this thing. When they come out, you can still bring the same light, right? You can still bring the same light. This is the church. This dude's the head of ICE or whatever, has affiliation with ICE. They are in there praying and worshiping because, a lot of them do use the word of God in a mischievous way, in my opinion, to further their own agendas. And so surprisingly, I actually agree with that sentiment on a bunch of fronts. And not only you enter this is where they're worshiping, right? So not only on that front, but again, it's ammunition, in my opinion, as well, for them they always, when it comes to BLM, because now they're re-weaponizing woke, right? They're re-weaponizing woke, like all these woke people. And think about that. Think about how they try and demean the term woke. I don't even know if anybody really pays attention to that. It's just we've let them just use it as a moniker, as opposed to really paying attention to the word. So now even when you got black folks, these people is woke and all this woke stuff. So now you are literally shaming somebody for being aware.
Yeah.
For proceeding with knowledge, for acting in a way that's knowledge-based. Right? So now you've allowed them to re-weaponize that term. Oh, these woke people, Don Lemon and all this other kind of stuff. You've allowed them to do that. Don Lemon, by all aesthetics, was performing as a journalist, right? By all aesthetics. But Don Lemon also, I just think it would have done the whole movement better. I agree with that sentiment. I'm not going to sit here and put my gavel like you guys were wrong and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do all that, but I will side with Lisa Renee on that one. I don't know if that was the best move. That's not a move I personally would have made.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that was the best move.
Yeah. So that's point one. Aunt Wow and I, we are on the same level of that. We agree with you guys using your voice. But there's a quote, as we celebrated, had a day off of Martin Luther King, about taking darkness with darkness. You can't win. You can't win. The only way you can win is with light. And so you always want to do things in respect and dignity if you can. And so we don't agree with that. So let's talk about step 2 now. Don was there. Now they're trying to hold Don responsible. Yeah. And trying to bring charges against Don for doing his job. Now, does Don maybe have some biases? Maybe, because we know what side he leans towards, but that's his constitutional right. He asks the questions of the things that people want to know, and I have to give him credit. Because many times journalists that are out the field, they just do their work behind the screens. Don said, I got to go old school and get out in these streets. I got to get out here with the people, and I got to get the news, and I got to compete with these young YouTubers and all this stuff and go back to where I started, which is getting the news on the front line. And I think they can bring charges. I think what Don did is going to go down in history books as one of the boldest things ever. Because all everyone's talking about is Don. And that's bringing ratings right to Don Lemon Show, which is helping him get more money, and more money. So it might seem tense now because of these charges, but I think it's going to go down in history books what he did. And I applaud him for that. Aunt Weezey?
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to get it to stick. I mean, and like Don said, there were other media outlets there as well. So now what is, I don't know how they're going to get it to stick because he acted in a journalistic fashion. Now, he said something I thought was interesting. Well, if I did know, what does that have to do with anything? I will say this. Well, yeah, don't all journalists have an ear to the street? Ain't that how they show up there? Right? Isn't that how breaking news happens?
What's going on. So
you have an ear to the street. You have an understanding of
what they call them, your source.
You have your sources, right? You have your sources. In the street they call them different, but sources, right?
Right.
So I don't know if they can tie him having an idea that this was going to happen to him. They would have to come up with more than him being there asking questions. He asked the questions that people want to know. From the interview portion I saw, because I did look for more of that interview, I wanted to see more of the actual interview. I know we're talking about Don and all the circumstances surrounding it, but I wanted to see more of the actual interview footage to make an assessment on what I'm talking about now, which is the questioning seemed objective. Again, like you said, we know what side Don's on, but I didn't feel like he was attacking him. And when I can't remember his name, when he was like, I think it's just time for you guys to leave and X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Don didn't really give a lot of pushback on that. Thank you very much. There wasn't an attack. I didn't sense an attack because I wanted to watch objectively, because if I did, even though Don Lemon and I probably agree on a lot of the same causes in X, Y, and Z, I'll call it, I'll try and keep it as objective as I possibly can. Hey, Don, just like we're talking about the church, I agree with the cause, but I don't know if we should have did that, y'all, right? So it's kind of the same thing. If I felt there was some type of tension or X, Y, and Z, I would state that. Yeah, Don was a little spicy. Ain't that what they say? Spicy? A little spicy. I didn't really get that at all. He did press on a couple of questions, but he didn't. It's spicy. Ain't that what they say? Spicy. I didn't really get the sense of it seemed to be in a journalistic fashion. So them trying to tie him to this, I don't know where they're going to be able to get it to stick. And ironically, if I'm not mistaken, the law that they're saying he violated is a Ku Klux Klan law. Dig that.
I know.
Right?
Woo, Jesus.
Right?
I just gotta laugh on that.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Look where we living at.
It's better for me to laugh again.
Listen, what did Donald Glover, Childish Gambino say? This is America. Like, y'all don't forget. Don't let our liberties blind you about what's going on. Right. Like, let's keep it at that while.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So let's get into the third point. As we come up with our girl from Trinidad, and talking about Trinidad, I want to say happy birthday to my amazing fiance. We are going somewhere, but he watches this show every week. He is by far the most consistent, only comment we normally get every week. We love you, baby. Thank you.
Julian, my guy. Happy birthday, my brother.
Happy birthday, my love. Happy birthday to your best friend, Dane, my soon-to-be brother-in-law, too, as well. I am praying that you guys both have the best year that you guys truly deserve. Two amazing, wonderful men. We often don't talk about good black men out here, but Aunt Wow is one, Julian is one, Dane is one, all three men doing right by their women. hardworking men out here, and so we need to celebrate that sometimes. So happy birthday, baby!
Happy birthday, my brother.
To Dane, and I can't give out the secret. Aunt Wow and everybody will know, but you will not know until you see it. So we'll just keep your birthday a secret until
Happy
this
birthday.
weekend.
Tony Robbins clap.
Yes, halfway there. So let's get into Trinidad. Just so y'all won't think I'm biased, because my fiance is from Trinidad. So Nicki Minaj, as you guys said, saw that she had some words to say with Don Lemon. Again, there's a lot of media outlets, but everybody is going after Don Lemon. How convenient is that?
Word. Good word. Great word.
How convenient and easy is that? And
That's a great word. Great word.
When it comes to what Nicki said, I will go back and I gotta find that quote from Martin Luther King. But you can't fight darkness with darkness, right? And so when you go starting attacking someone of who they sleep with personally, taking another post from someone else who questioned his blackness, anybody with eyes can see can look at Don and say he's a black man. I don't care how biracial he is. At the end of the day, if you didn't tell us that, nobody would know. Don is a black man, and he has always walked proudly in that and never tried to step back from that. And so what? He chose to marry a white man. So did Serena. So did Venus Williams. So did Eve. I mean, there's just way too many people we can name. There's white people that marry black. I mean, that is just the world we in. When you find love, you find love, and it is what it is. And furthermore, because he is biracial, shouldn't that make more sense to us? Why would we be worried about that? Would make more sense because he is biracial. Therefore, if he's being raised by white people and black people, he has that love on both sides because of how he was raised. But everyone knows if you've watched Don Lemon, and I've watched Don Lemon since a little kid, he's always stood in the rights for people. And I've been seeing Nicki Minaj. We have talked about her too much, about things that have come out of her mouth inappropriately, than about the dope rapper she is. You know what I mean? And I don't know where it's coming from. When you look at her statement, she sounds just like somebody else. It doesn't even sound like her words. We know who says lock them up. We know who says that. And so if Nicki, out of all shows, if you watch Nicki, you are a leader. You're not a follower. You are a trendsetter. But those words are follower words. And I just don't understand that. Because I truly believe you're better than that. Vote for who you want to vote for. I don't care. But if you say you are a Christian, although there are things online saying when you performed and was against Christian, like people are starting to pull up receipts when it comes to Christianity and you. People are starting to pull up, are you really from here or not, allegedly? I don't really know. I don't really care. But what I can say, I know sometimes we put these things because we know people are going to bite on it. But at the end of the day, Nicki, you got to look into the mirror as a mother. As a mother, as a woman, what are you projecting for your child to see? You don't know who your son may grow up and be one day. I'm not projecting that on him, but you don't know. You don't know. And so I would just say, if we want to fight Don, you could have said something to Don. But to use those words, Nicki, I think you're better than that. I really do. And Weezey, what do you got to say about Nicki's commentary to Don Lemon? Obviously,
I thought she was better than that. I thought she was better than that. But, being objective, and we talked about it before, just first of all, and I'm saying this to everybody. I mean, this is going to apply to Nicki, but I'm saying this to everybody. They're going to continue to use us in a certain way because we have shown that we are very easy to be bots.
pick me. Is that what Don was saying? Pick me.
They're going to use us in a certain way because we have shown that we are very easy to be bought. They have chosen Nicki Minaj as the black spokesperson for that movement. Well, what has she done to make her the spokesperson of that movement? And if you guys are so wholesome, why did you choose Nicki Minaj? Because it hasn't really stood on a lot. In fact, speaking of receipts, they're starting to dig up 2016 tweets, 2018 tweets, where she was slamming Trump over his deportation efforts, talking about, I came here as an illegal immigrant because she was born in Trinidad. Now, she's been here since she was like 5 years old. She was slamming the very administration that she is now upholding. She was slamming Trump a few different times about immigration, deportation, rights, all these kinds of things. And he is a worse representation of what he represents. Sorry if I said his name, I probably shouldn't have. But he's a worse representation of what that represents now than he was then. So now what has he done now to turn the tables? That's where my confusion lies. So I have no choice but to think it is easy for them to always have a step on us because it's easy for us to be bought. You don't have anything to stand on with respect to the stance that you're taking. It's coming out of left field. People don't know what you're talking about, and you can't articulate your point in a way that we're like, oh, okay, I can see that. Nothing. You are out here doing the same thing you did when you was beefing with Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion and everybody in the world that you beefing with. You're out here slandering. You're calling Don Lemon a thug for being a journalist, yet you praise thug activity. You came up on thug activity. That's what you do, right? And that's your whole thing. Your whole thing is Nicki Minaj. It's thug. I want the thugs. I want the gangsters. I want all that. But you're going to call Don Lemon a thug for being a journalist? That is what I'm. And then Christianity and all this. And like you said, because I'm glad you said that. I'm like, yeah, I thought I remember. Now, mind you, I'm not the most in tune with Nicki Minaj. So don't let me front like I know every single thing that she's ever said. But that seemed ironic to me because I could have swore I saw something in the past where there was some sort of Christian comment, right? And so now, in this sense, now you're going out of your way to further plant your flag on that side of the pole because you want to further show your alignment with them as if there aren't any motivations for you doing so. The reality of it is, according to the thoughts of a lot of people, and I'm just going to state what the facts are and your actions and how there's a lot of coincidences. I'm going to say that brother that you married to has a pedophile jacket, if I'm not mistaken, either in some trouble or trying to get out of some trouble or X, Y, and Z. It seems, according to the popular narrative, that this is a pardon agreement, that this is how you got into bed with them, quote unquote, because back to your point, that tweet sounds just like that. Lock them up. Lock them up. You know, he was saying that about people who were literally taking a knee, a movement that was not disrespectful, a movement where Kaepernick consulted with a Green Beret because he was sitting down, and the Green Beret said, it's better if you take a knee. That's still showing respect. It's just showing that you have an issue with X, Y, and Z. Sitting down is more disrespectful. You said, fire him, lock him up to that. And now, Nicki, you're saying fire, lock him up for being a journalist. But there's none of that on the other end. When there are clear insurrection, there's the biggest insurrection in the history of the world that happened January 6, 2021. The fact that anybody on that side of the fence is over here talking about what Don Lemon did, which we agree, and I'm not saying what Don Lemon did. Let me retract that. what that protest did, because I'm not saying Don Lemon did it. He reported on it. What the protest did. We agree, not the best move. Not the best move. I would have preferred so that it doesn't get labeled in a way where they can blackball it and shovel it up and try and over dramatize how villainous it is and how heinous it is. Unfortunately, in this stage, in this day and age, we have to be mindful in certain areas more than they have to be, because they can shift the narrative how they want to. That's just the reality of the game. This is just the reality of the game. So I personally, along with, I ain't playing with that institution. Whether I agree with y'all or not, I'm not going to go in there and do that. We agree on that. That's objective. We agree on that. But he's a thug that needs to be locked up with all the thug stuff that's going on. America is the most ghetto. Somebody told me this. They was like, this is a ghetto mess. And I said, wow, this is the most ghetto mess in the history of the world going on right now. And he's a thug and needs to be locked up for doing a journalistic duty that you can't prove that he organized. Where's that? That doesn't even make any sense. Mm-hmm. So now, because I promise you, there's a lot more things that you probably have done that may deserve some locking up than Don Lemon interviewing in a church where they protested, where they probably should have stayed outside, right? I promise you that. So I don't even, it's hard for me to even get like mad, because I'm like, what? This is the sunken place. Like, this is on some get out. Like, I feel like they did the teabag with you, and that's how they got you in this. They did the whole thing, and you was crying, and you was falling and reaching up. I feel like it's a whole Jordan Peele movie going on right now, because you sound crazy.
Yeah, and has sound crazy on a lot of these rants online. That's why I just feel like maybe there's more going on. I really don't know, but I just think when your husband has those charges against him, even though it's been so long since those things happen, if you go after somebody else's, who they're with and what they do, people are always going to go back to that situation with your husband. So it's just one of those things that you just have to be mindful, because if you want this flame to die down about your husband and the P word, then you can't attack somebody else, because people will continue to attack you on that. And that's not what I want, because that has happened, so long ago, but it continues to regurgitate up. I remember Cardi B brought it up, you know what I mean? And Meg Thee Stallion brought it up in her rap. And now Don Lemon has brought it up. People will continue to bring it up if you keep going after them of things that are relative to your own home place in your home. And so it's just one of these things we got to kind of think before we speak.
And if you do choose to go on that, then just be prepared that this is what's going to happen, or be more prepared on the stances you're taking, because it's airy. It's airy stances. I think that, it's a shame. I'm just being a fan of music now. And I'm not saying I've gotten every Nicki Minaj album and I've bumped an X, Y, and Z. But I have been in the barbershops having Nicki Minaj conversations. And mind you, there's different female rappers. Obviously, I lean more towards the OGs in that space, because a lot of the female rappers now seem to be in a lot of the same lanes. A Rhapsody or somebody like that, who's more of the cloth from, yesteryear, where she occupies her own lane. She's just a talented lyricist, all these things. But Nicki was a person in a lot of songs where she was on some heavyweights where she won, that I felt, right? And so it's not consistent with anything, right? It's not consistent. The only thing that it's consistent with is that you never really stood on a whole lot, but it's not consistent with anything. Like, everything that got you here, you're literally going against. I don't know. I have no other choice but to think that there's an agreement in this, and I don't understand all the success that you have. I don't understand what they dangled in front of your face to make you feel like you had to do this. And I'm only saying that because I haven't heard a lot of foundational reasons why you're doing this. It sounds like rhetoric. It sounds like stuff that you were fed. It sounds like a script you were told to follow, i.e. Lisa's point, when it said it doesn't even sound like her. And in that sense, it's like, well, I have no other choice but to believe this. But like, I know she was huge in the LGBTQ community. I know she was huge, obviously, black girl doing her thing. All these people, all the people that you're going against, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So you can't then try and be salty, in the words of a lot of the newer people. You can't be salty when you're the one launching your hat into a ring where you don't got a lot you got a lot coming back at you, and you don't really have a lot to defend what's coming back at you. So now you're being salty at that. It just doesn't really. You go at Don Lemon.
Yeah, and I didn't say it doesn't sound like her. If anything, I probably said just a lot of these rants have been actually sounding similar. But from what I understand, her follower count has dropped. And Don Lemon, I mean, he came straight, said it. A new album may be dropping from her, and that people need to hit her in her pockets.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, people are saying allegedly they do believe that her numbers are going to be hit. And she has this new album coming out, and they're saying these new followers that maybe she has gotten since she went on, the platform with, Mrs. Kirk and things like that. Mind you, let's not forget what Charlie Kirk said about Nicki Minaj, about her not being an example, a good example for black women, and just the different things that he has made reference to black women. And so we're gonna just wait and see if it's gonna hit her financially, because I do know a lot of people in the LGBTQ really do love Nicki Minaj, but what she said about Don should sting anybody who's in the LGBTQ, and I do believe that we do have to start hitting people in their pockets when they are clearly doing things that are in a disadvantage of who you are. Now, I'm not LGBTQ, but if I was, I wouldn't buy another ticket.
Right.
Not doing it. I'm not buying. I think R. Kelly is one of the best musicians out here, but I'm not. If R. Kelly was out, after what I've learned as a mother, I cannot support him. I cannot support that, because then I'm not using my constitutional right to do the right thing. And I was talking to a guy last night, and I told him, I said, I'm becoming oblivious to all of this. And he was like, sis, you can't be oblivious to this. We all got to go out and we got to do this. I said, oh, don't trust me. I use my voice and I exercise my right to vote. But what I cannot do is let these things, I guess, pierce me, I would say, personally. I have to think objectively. If we voted a certain person in the House, why am I surprised by all of this, is what I'm trying to tell people. There is nothing they can say or do that I'm going to be surprised. So that's why I said become oblivious for it. I can talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, I am not going to be the one like, can you believe? Yeah, I can believe. That's why I exercise my vote. So we just need this time to just buy on out. They're going to, whatever you say or do, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. I'm using my platform here to speak on things. I disagree with some things he has done, but there are some things I'm like, okay, I can see that. I believe our seniors are going to be getting back, more tax money. So there are some things that I'm probably in agreement with, because I'm objective like that. Whether I agree or disagree with a person, I'm smart enough to say this is an advantage for my mother, my aunt, my grandparents. But I'm also objective to say I don't think we should be doing this to U.S. citizens. We shouldn't be pulling U.S. citizens out their car. You know what I mean? And so I would hope that more people and more followers of Another Mother will learn that you could disagree with a person, but you do need to look at each policy and each thing that they're doing individually to see the benefit or the non-benefit of it. You know, I think Aunt Wow and I talked a while back when I went to the White House website and how the website spoke very highly of Martin Luther King. I was impressed by that. I was absolutely impressed by that. Now, I would talk to somebody about that and they would go negative, already being biased. And I want you guys who listen to Another Mother, I want you to get those biases out and start to look at things from both sides of the lens. But this is the most important thing I can tell you. Exercise your vote on the Senate level, on the governor level, all levels. You have to exercise your vote, because you don't, this is what we get. Some of y'all stocking water up because y'all afraid. But this is what we get when you don't exercise your vote and you sit on the sidelines just talking. Don't talk, do something. Because a lot of our ancestors fought for us to be here. They fought for us to be here. And what we don't need to do is be a buffoon out in these streets. And that's just real. And wow, anything you have to say in summary of this whole story between Nicki and Don and the protests, so we can wrap this up and get into our inspirational quote? As he's thinking.
No.
Wow!
Well, because
here he goes.
Well, I will touch on one thing. It's funny you said hurt him in the pockets. If that's not what you, whatever. R. Kelly is one of my favorite musicians in the history of the world. One of my absolute favorites. I think Robert Kelly is one of the best musicians, songwriters, all the things. I have bumped a lot of Robert Kelly's music, all that kind of stuff. I can't tell you the last time I've listened to an R. Kelly song. Simply because. So I think that's a good microcosm to everything that we're talking about, right? You got to stand on something. Mm-hmm. And you have to be aware so that you can stand on what that is that you're standing on based on the knowledge you've accumulated in a way that's as objective as possible, right? We're all subjective because we're humans. Feelings are going to be involved, but don't let the feelings overtake what's best. Because, like it or not, we've all thrived better in different situations, both sides of the house. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So guys, our inspirational quote picked by our own Aunt Weezey, and wow. This is coming from Martin Luther King Jr. As you know, we celebrated last week his actual birthday, but then the world we celebrate this Monday. And so we wanted to use a quote again of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. So, the silence of the good people is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad people. Let me say that again. The silence of the good people is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad people. Aunt Weezey?
So, piggyback off kind of what I said, but I'm going to use an example. So I was talking to a good friend of mine years ago because we used to have these kind of debates. And listen, we all just want what's best. You know, I want to preserve that that's how we are. It's hard to believe a lot of days. It's a lot of disappointment I have in the world on both sides of the fence. It's not just one. So I want to believe that in this journey, we're trying to be the best we can and all that. So we would have these debates. And, when the subject of force by law enforcement would come up, he would take offense to that because he'd be like, well, not everybody's like that. And I don't like the picture pointing that, all police and stuff are like that. And, I don't like that picture. So we would go back and forth, and I would just kind of tell my stories. Listen, I've been pulled over probably 60 times in my life.
Mm,
You know how long my rap sheet is? There is none.
right.
I use myself as an example of that all the time. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about literally fitting a profile that gets you pulled over. I don't have a rap sheet. I don't have a record. I don't have any of that. Never been to jail. Never, none of that. And I still have all these encounters that have been unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's like that, this and that and the third. And I remember Paul Rosenberg from with him and Ebro. I remember he had a police officer on his show, and he was talking about, this very kind of thing. Because what I said to one of my good friends is, he was talking about, how the media paints this and this and that and the third. And I said, you know what? This is why you need to be saying something.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's very important. And he was like, oh, what do you mean? And I said, because what you're saying is exactly what needs to be said from somebody that looks like you, right? Because you guys want to get on us if we don't say a certain thing or capitulate to a certain thing. We always have to go out of our way to show that we're different than every other person that you've met that may look like me, that you have formed an opinion on. That's not personal. That's based on media, because a lot of people who have these opinions have never been exposed to somebody like me. They've never been around. They've never had that black person at their dinner table and all this other kind of stuff. You have this brain that you have this thought that you have. You then need to be somebody who's speaking up for the middle or the other side in this way, because you guys expect us to differentiate and talk. The police come into the neighborhoods, stop, the stop snitching is real and all this kind of stuff. And you get down on us at that, and you pull us in these first 48 rooms and get us on all that kind of stuff, because it's not a good thing. But yet when somebody does something, then you guys just sit there and you guys don't say anything. But we're supposed to say, oh, yeah, no, we see that you're not like everybody else. How will we see that? If you stand there and don't do nothing, then we don't have any idea that you're any different. The silence of the good, you need to be saying something. You need to help differentiate from people who may look at a certain people a certain way. You need to step in and differentiate and then show why you're not like. But if you just sit there in silence and then somebody attacks you based on something that may have happened, and then you want to say, well, not everybody's like that, but then you don't want to come to the forefront and differentiate yourself, what good has that done? Mm-hmm. This is when we need you to step up. This is exactly what we need. If we sit back as a people, imagine none of the progress we would have made if a lot of people wouldn't have stepped up and did it on any situation.
Yes.
On any situation. If there weren't people, I'm just using a black folk, but if you didn't have other people saying, no, this is wrong. I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
Regardless of what, this is wrong. Muhammad Ali, everybody loves Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali didn't come up in the trap. He didn't come up in the ghetto. He came up from a middle-class family, had both of his parents and all that kind of stuff. Imagine if Muhammad Ali never stood on anything. Mm-hmm. Imagine the voice we would have lost in that. Right? Imagine if John Lennon never, him and Yoko Ono never went on their quest to try and educate people. This is what I'm saying. The silence of the good, the what does it say? The brutality of the bad.
Yeah, so the silence of the good people is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad people.
How will we know the brutality of the bad people even exists if the good people don't say anything?
Hmm.
And I'll leave it at that.
Right. And in short, basically, what Aunt Wild is saying is that good people staying silent gives bad behavior permission to thrive. Right.
1000%.
You know, evil doesn't become powerful only because of bad people, but it's because good people choose not to speak up or act, y'all. Like the brutality of bad people, it is so obvious. We expect them to do the wrong things. But when you're silent, it's more dangerous because people will stay quiet and wrongdoing is going to continue to be allowed and be normalized.
That
Guys.
silence is actually an accomplice to the bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It actually fuels it. It actually is an aid.
Yep. And too many people don't want to call out injustice. We want to look the other way. We want to stay quiet to avoid conflict. And I get it. Or we say, oh, well, it's not my problem. So all we're doing at this time is benefiting the oppressor, not the victim. And we have seen a lot of victims during this run. During this time, there has been so many victims. I'm going to say it again in short, guys. Good people staying silent gives bad people the behavior to thrive. And so that's why here at Another Mother, we try to use our platform. We try to be unbiased. We tell you what we think, but we try to look at all views. But we're also using this platform to speak up, to call out injustice. Because we know, like Aunt Wild said, those that came before us, they fought like Hell. They went through undergrounds and crossed over in water for me to be here, for you to be here, for Aunt Wild to be here. They had to pick cotton. They had to do things that they didn't want to do to help us. So how can we sit back and do nothing and say nothing when we see things happening? The only thing I would ask is that we do it with love and kindness. Let's not interrupt people worshiping, because we interrupting God's plan right there.
Agree with that.
Especially when we got innocent people in there. And when we want to go off on people on social media, realize when you're gone and passed over, your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, they will all see what you said and what you've done. So I would encourage you, be the voice of good, be the voice of light. Doesn't mean you're not human. If you make a sidestep, you can always course correct that and apologize, but always lean doing the right thing, guys. So we thank you. We thank you last week. Y'all, we've been hitting these views up week after week after week. Just get these likes up. Okay. Let's get these likes. Let's get these likes up. Cause me and wow, we close from hanging this towel in. We've been trying not to tell y'all stuff. But listen, we got to make sure that we are getting a return on investment. It's something good. Obviously, you guys saw that happen, and we know that played in a lot of you guys viewing Another Mother show. And so we are so thankful to you. God bless you for everything that you are. Happy New Year to you guys again, and have a great weekend. We will see you guys next Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye, y'all. Woo!
Peace.